Hello everyone, welcome to Mephisto's Corner, a podcast where we discuss the unexplainable, the paranormal, and our morbid reality. Thank you for joining us as we add fuel to your nightmares. I'm your host, Ready to Glare, with my co-host, Jacob.
So go ahead and turn the lights off in your house, light a scented candle of your choice, and sprinkle a circle of some pink Himalayan salt around yourself because we are going to get spooky for this episode.
Today's episode is on the phenomenon and sightings of black-eyed kids. Black-eyed kids, or black-eyed children, BEK for short, are a contemporary legend of supposed paranormal creatures that resemble children between the ages of 6 and 16, with pale skin and jet black eyes, who are reportedly seen hitchhiking or panhandling, or are encountered on doorsteps of residential homes. They are primarily an American urban legend, as sightings internationally seem to be much more scarce. We will start with a reading of an encounter with the BEK I stumbled upon via Reddit. It was by a user named Bailey Diane, and it reads as follows. I had a real encounter. I was working in an office that did mainly business-to-business sales and rentals. Since we weren't in a great part of town and we weren't exactly open to the public, I kept the door to our office locked. The only way to work the lock was with a key from either side. I'd stepped out to go on a sales call. We had tint on our door that allowed me to see out, but was a mirror tint from the outside. I tended to look out before leaving because it was a rough area and I was a young female working alone. This was about 12 years ago, so I was in my mid-20s. I looked out and there were 2 young men walking about a block from me. No big deal, I could easily be safely to my car before they reached where I was. Before I know it, the kids, both looked around 15-ish, were much closer than they should have been, like they had walked a city block in a split second. My flight or fight kicked in. I had no reason to be afraid, but I felt deep fear. So I went back inside and locked the door from the inside. I'm not sure how to describe the fear I felt that led me to rush back inside. These kids started banging on the door. Only one of the 2 spoke. He said, "We need a phone, let us in." I yelled, "No," through the door. He kept banging on my glass door so hard it was vibrating. I threatened to call the cops. They kept banging and begging to use the phone. I finally got brave enough to get a better look at them so I could give a description to the police. And their eyes were pitch black. I'm not super religious, but I just yelled, "In the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to leave." And they disappeared. Just vanished. I'd never heard of the BEK phenomenon before this event.
Yeah, the black-eyed children phenomenon, after reading a bunch of encounters, gave me a sense of anxiety just reading them. It was very chilling to read all these encounters because I kept thinking, what if I experienced one of these encounters? I would have an existential crisis, and I feel like it would truly change me from the very core. But yeah, after reading some of these encounters with the BEK, I've noticed a certain pattern in which it all goes down.
You're right. There is a basic pattern, though of course there are always going to be accounts with variations. It is somewhat formulaic in that many accounts follow a similar narrative. It happens at night. There's consistent tapping that can't be ignored. At first, the BEK don't speak much. The person is immediately fearful or has a negative gut feeling. Kids demand to use the phone or say their parents left them or appeal to emotions in any other way. The person ends up feeling drained after the encounter even if they don't let in the BEK. And an observation of many of these BEK encounters is of experiences where the BEK are not being let in, which drives the questions: what do they want? What are they? And where are they from? And what happens if they're let in? The most chilling one yet.
Based on my personal research, the knocking is often portrayed as mechanical in the sense that it's unnatural and rhythmic, as if it were a metronome. So these witnesses claim the knocking starts and it's like... To me, that's creepy if I heard that knock myself.
It's super somber. It kind of reminds me of just like the dreaded knock in like horror movies or thrillers, where a knock is relatively, not a personality trait or anything, but based on a knock I hear, I can know whether it's you or whether it's just bad news coming my way.
Yeah, the normal knock is like,
yeah,
maybe not sound like clicking of the tongue, but you know what I mean. But yeah, I mean, and witnesses of the BEK often, they feel that these children are not human, and that they have this sense of superiority over these victims. They are predators, and the humans feel the sense that they are prey. I mean, even though these strange feelings are hypnotic and almost telepathic, the flight or fight instinct doesn't often kick in for these victims, and they're rooted to the spot until a point in which they demand to be let in, and that's when they kind of snap back in reality and realize, I ain't got time for this shit. I ain't going out this way. And they use various reasons to enter your home. You know, the most common ones are, "Excuse me, sir, I need to use your restroom, please, to have a shite." And the more common one also is, "I need to use your phone, please. Can I come in and use your phone?"
Jesus Christ.
And one such strange example of an encounter of the black-eyed children even asked to use a telegraph. A fucking telegraph. I didn't even know what the fucking telegraph was. I had to Google it. And it made me laugh because I had also read that the black-eyed children might sometimes have outdated clothing.
Yeah, there are some accounts where they also have like outdated haircuts, where they have some bowl cut that looks like it comes from a paperboy in the 1920s, Oliver Twist style.
They're wearing trousers and stuff, and
their little hats, and with like a stack of papers, being like, "Extra, extra, read all about it."
I like that. They typically ask to be let in at first, and then upon refusal, they start to demand it. And there are accounts of them like continuing to knock and scream to be let in. The children are not threatened by calls to the police, and they aren't afraid of physical threats. I've heard one encounter in which they let out a distorted, high-pitched scream and crying after having the door slammed on them. And as you said, maybe that's another way to like emotionally appeal to their victim, to maybe make them reconsider being let in.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that maybe crying or whimpering might work better in the sense that they're underlining the fact that they're so small and vulnerable, and oh my god, if you don't help them, what's going to happen? But if you let out the like, bitch, I'm closing the door on you twice.
Like straight out
I'm going to kick you down my porch. So, as mentioned, in many of the encounters in which the BK weren't even let in, the victims experienced physical repercussions. In multiple accounts, they felt nauseated as well as drained. Some experienced nightmares and could no longer sleep soundly for a while. In terms of the history of the BK, there are varying reports. Some have said that tales of the BK have been around since the 1950s and 1980s, but most claim it truly began in 1996. In 1996, in Abilene, Texas, a reporter named Brian Bethel described 2 encounters with BK. His stories are now deemed as classics that laid the groundwork for others to come forward.
And this topic seems to be somewhat controversial in the sense that there have been reports predating Bethel's encounter, but even still, it's widely accepted that his is one of the first to appear on the internet at the very least. Some have suggested that since he posted on the internet about the black-eyed children, that it created a new creepypasta, and that many are fabrications or exaggerations, suggesting questions such as, are these just kids, weird kids, high kids, Amish kids? We all know there are weird people out there. I mean, look at Florida. I think these skeptics are doubtful of, the existence of the children, maybe see it as a more logical explanation, like kids acting strange, or even this is like a hoax or trying to mess with someone. And they have also observed that the lack of BEK encounters in which they are actually let in, if these BEK were telepathic and geared as predators, maybe they ought to have had a better success rate. I mean, right? That would make sense.
If they're that smart, yeah why wouldn't they have, actually done what it is they need to do?
Absolutely. And I think there's a convenient response to this, and that is dead men tell no tales. Luckily for us, there are at least a few encounters online of the BEK being let in.
So initially, I too thought that it was strange that very few people let them in. But then again, when you have that gut reaction, it's best to listen to it. I would have slammed the door. I now, though, have a perfectly valid reason to not open the door to any child whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't like to answer the door to anyone. I'm like, what are you trying to sell me? And I always question these people who let the black-eyed children, like, you don't notice that their eyes are completely black, they have knocked weird, they're acting strange, and
they're
like,
wearing fucked up clothes.
Yeah, outdated clothes. Like, what is this kid, a part of a play? And I just imagine like the scenario going like this, like, oh, hi kids, how are you? What are you selling, some Girl Scout cookies? Honey, they're selling some Girl Scout cookies. I'm gonna let these kids in. And then obviously they're like, I need to have a fucking shite in your bathroom. Honey, they're gonna use the restroom and then we're gonna get some cookies. And that's how it all goes down.
Thank you for that enactment. So here is an example of when BEK are let in from a book titled The Black-Eyed Kids by G. Michael Vasey.
In one widely reported incidents, the BEK were allowed into the home, and with disastrous consequences. The story of the encounter follows the now all too familiar horrifying sequence of an unexpected knock at the door at 2 a.m. Two small children stand there, and the man answering the door inexplicably was totally unnerved by them. Thinking the kids got lost, or perhaps there had been an accident, he lets the kids in, and his wife makes cocoa for them. He keeps asking them what has happened, and they keep on repeating not to worry, as their parents would be there soon. The scared and concerned couple started to notice that their pets were behaving strangely. The husband began also to feel dizzy and strange as he sat with the kids. When the woman of the house returns with the cocoa, she almost dropped it when they look at her and she sees that their eyes are completely black. At this point, the kids ask to use the restroom, and husband and wife start to discuss the scene. His nose starts to bleed profusely. Then, just as inexplicably, the power goes out and they find themselves in darkness. They stand in the darkness in total fear until suddenly the kids leave abruptly, saying that their parents have arrived, leaving the front door wide open. Outside, the woman can see a car idling on the street and two tall, dark-suited adults. After a while, the power came back on, but after that, nothing was the same. The cats disappeared. The pet bird died of a hemorrhage in a pool of blood in its cage. The husband's nosebleeds became progressively worse and was then diagnosed with skin cancer. Meanwhile, the wife also began to suffer dizzy spells and nosebleeds. Had the encounter with the BEK caused this?
That is pretty fucking creepy, dude. The fact that the husband felt those physical effects and the cats got all fucked up, hell no. Anyway, this story is a great tool for us to use in order to better understand, or at least try to understand, what the BK are and what they might want. Of course, the internet has a significant amount of theories on the BK.
It begs a lot of, it brings up a lot of questions. Are they killed immediately? Do they die slowly throughout life? Are they being fed on after that encounter to the point where it's chronic. There are obviously theories are everywhere with this phenomenon. There are theories that there are interdimensional beings or even vampires. However, the only evidence to suggest that either of these two theories are true is that when these encounters occur, the witnesses often claim that everything else seems to go quiet, and they're almost dragged into a different realm where no outside forces can help, which would explain why they aren't threatened by police calls or physical violence, because no outside forces can help you. And for the latter theory of vampires, apparently the black-eyed children must be invited in a very clearly manner in order to enter the home. For me, the idea that they need to be let in makes sense for the next theory as well, that they are soul-sucking demons, which leads me to assume that when they are asking and demanding to be let in, they may not be talking about just your home. They want that juicy, succulent soul. I think if they came into our homes, they would leave hungry.
Yeah, they'd be like, this bitch empty. Why didn't anyone tell me this place is fucked?
Some of us already hit this home, and somehow they're unaffected.
My soul has already been taken by another black-eyed child, but somehow I'm fine. Maybe my consistent disappointment is what was, like, triggered.
They're like, that was just an appetizer. What is this? Let's go to the neighbor's house. But, you know, this theory of that they're soul-sucking demons would possibly explain these ill effects that victims experience, and that to completely claim your soul, your life must be taken as well. And that would maybe explain why the diseases that are caused, that can cause death, and the fact that survivors aren't telling, or people who haven't survived, you know, can't tell their story because these disastrous consequences were death because of these children.
Right, and there's one account that supports the soul eaters or vampire theory, and this one also comes from The Black-Eyed Kids by G. Michael Vasey. So in this particular account, a couple was getting into their car, and two kids approached them trying to get a ride somewhere. The couple declined upon seeing the suspicious nature of these kids, on top of the biggest red flag, which is beady black eyes. The account then details that these kids said, "The only way we can come in is if we're invited." That, to me, screams vampire.
Can we get a ride to Dave and Buster's, please? Yeah, okay. This is like a trope of, you know, vampires, right? They can't eat garlic because they don't like flavor. They can't see themselves in mirrors, even though they look damn good.
True.
And that they can't come into your home uninvited, so they often kind of trick you into it. I think vampires are more subtle than black-eyed children, which leads me to the conclusion that this is complete BS. Consider vampires use sneaky ways, like, oh, I bought this pot roast for you, let me in, I'll welcome you to the neighborhood. While black-eyed kids are like, can I use your telegraph, please? Let me in.
That's fine. You're allowed to be wrong. I've seen enough True Blood for the entire fucking population of the United States / maybe the universe to know they need to be goddamn let in to go in and have sex with Sookie.
Well, my vampires, okay, they sparkle in the sunlight, so I don't know what you're talking about.
We don't do Twilight in this household.
Yeah, okay, I know. Yeah, okay, so if these are demons, where did they come from? Did they just come out of like some dark coal mine one day being like, I need to have a shot, need to use a stranger's bathroom.
And then leave with it, so I'm at it.
Yeah. So in the book, The Black-Eyed Kids, a theory is brought up that these could be descendants of the demon Lilith. And for those of you who do not know, Lilith is described as the dangerous demon of the night, which could explain that many BEK encounters occur in the dead of night. She is apparently the equivalent of a demon thought who steals babies, because she is apparently a seductress kind of type. And you know those premium Snapchat models looking for money to show the booty?
So she's on Instagram wearing booty shorts, and in the background you see a little baby, and she's like, XOXO, babies for sale, check link in bio.
Lilith is variously depicted as the mother of Adam's demonic offspring following his separation from Eve, which was a nasty divorce, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, the Garden of Eden must have a terrible divorce court.
God's like, yo, I gotta write this in that people shouldn't get divorced.
After their divorce, it's like, damn, we need to stop people.
Maybe I should change that. So, whereas Eve was created from Adam's rib, Genesis 2:22, some accounts hold that Lilith was the woman implied in Genesis 1:27 and was made from the same soil as Adam. Lilith left Adam and the perfection of Garden Eden. According to some mythologies, her demonic offspring were sired by an archangel named Samuel, a.k.a. Big Dick Sam, and were not Adam's progeny. Those children are sometimes identified as incubi or succubi. And this is my own personal kind of crazy paranoid theory, is that the BEK might be the children of the victims of incubi and succubi with a shared ability to suck souls. Or they might be the stolen babies which have been imbued with the powers to suck souls given to by their crazy bitch mother, Lilith.
I'm just thinking about what her handle would be on Instagram, and I think it'd be really funny to imagine it as like Lilith Duh Thought. And like the O is like a 0 and it's duh instead of the.
She's like, I like when you use my own tail to choke me.
Jesus Christ. All right. So they're like Death Eaters, but instead of Voldemort, it's Lilith?
I really love the reference as a Harry Potter fan, as you know. But yes, but actually they're more like Life Eaters or Soul Eaters because they eat that shit up like it's a bucket of KFC hot wings.
Thanks, you've ruined hot wings. Anyway, another theory is the alien one. And no shade, but seriously, whenever people don't have answers, they turn to aliens. Anyway, pushing my clear bias aside, let's talk extraterrestrials. One of the main reasons the alien theory is so popular is due to the Men in Black phenomenon. The Men in Black are known to be generally silent, appear as if out of nowhere, and usually intimidate people. Some online forums even claim that the Men in Black exist in order to scare people out of reporting their sightings. Anyway, physically speaking, the Men in Black obviously are not wearing goddamn pastels. They're in dark clothes, have sunglasses on, and often wear the abominations to fashion that are fedoras.
Tip my hat to you, milady.
I'm gonna kick you out. Men in Black are also known to knock on doors at night. As you can see, the parallels with the BEK are evident. Some say the Men in Black wear sunglasses to hide their black eyes. Are they just adult versions of BEK? A common theme between Men in Black and the BEK is that they both have a hidden agenda and seem to mainly come out at night, underlining that they want to be noticed, but also crave concealment at the same time. Maybe BEK are a way for aliens to gather information on us. It's convenient in that children are connected to purity and vulnerability, so most would want to protect them by letting them in. Is this a calculated way for aliens to find shit out? Well, I don't fucking buy it. I feel crazy, but I definitely tend to believe the demon/soul eater route. Imagine thinking aliens are inconceivable, but demons are completely logical. This goes to show how complex all of this shit is.
I am offended. I'm strongly a believer of like alien theories. I love them. They give me the kicks, you know. So to add to this theory, this alien theory, and the Men in Black theory, an observation I made was in the story that we just read where the children said, my parents will arrive soon. And you mentioned that the Men in Black are theorized to be black-eyed children, or black-eyed adults, I should say. What if the Men in Black are the parents of these black-eyed children? Or maybe grown-up versions of them, which would explain why a lot of Men in Black theories describe them with, like, chalky skin. They act strange, walk weird, don't really know how to, like, walk naturally. They seem to be just off color.
Yeah. So me, but not tall.
Just socially awkward.
Yeah. Me. I'm the Men in Black exposed.
They're just socially awkward people in suits. Yeah, what also the Men in Black, like, what if they're just so fed up with their kids and these black-eyed children, we're not supposed to be running into them. Like, the Men in Black are just like, honey, the kids got out of the basement again. We gotta go fetch them.
Yeah, so the people in the car are just like, God damn it, Marcus. I asked you to stay at home and watch television, and you fucking left to use someone's phone. We have a phone.
Sorry, Daddy. Can I use your restroom?
And also, stop talking to me like that. You're giving me the creeps, dude.
Yeah. Okay, well, also another thing to add to the alien theory. So like the alleged cases of aliens abducting humans to create some hybrid race of alien humans, maybe these little bastards are coming back home. Like, yo, it's me, your boy, let me in. I'm your son.
Ma, I'm home.
I'm home. And then, obviously the unwilling parents are like, what the? So the kid reports them to the Maury show. And they do, like, a case where it's like, are you the father? And then, like, the person's like, they look nothing like me. And then the person's like, you are the father. And the guy's like, shit!
In this situation, I'd rather a bit of a Jerry Springer type thing where people start hitting each other. And, yeah, I'm biased towards Jerry Springer for this one. But, speaking of, hey, demons, it's me, ya boy, enter the white-eyed kids. Because black-eyed children, or even just regular-ass kids, aren't annoying enough. The white-eyed children, or WEK, are parallel to the BEK in many ways. An account that was posted on Reddit, that is now deleted, details an interaction with a WEK. The Redditor mentioned that this child approached him while in his car, asking for him to unlock the door and let him in. This guy was a veteran and not easily scared, but he, like other stories with the BEK, felt a negative gut reaction. He stated he almost rolled down his window and let the white-eyed child in, but his instincts kicked in and he sped off. In the rearview mirror, he noticed the child didn't move at all as he drove away. He later had a second quasi-interaction where he noticed a set of handprints, child-sized handprints, on the passenger side door. Needless to say, he was disturbed, and as we would all be, he was tired of this shit.
He's like, I just fucking waxed my car, and I got your sweaty, greasy hands on it. Yeah, I've seen it suggested that the white-eyed children are actually in control of the black-eyed children, which would make sense if you considered the theory that eye color is said to represent what demons are all about, and even their rank. For example, white-eyed demons are described as, no joke, the demon chiefs of staff. I don't know what colored eye is the press secretary for demons, but I found this a very strange way to word it. The BEK, the black-eyed soldier, or black-eyed children, are like soldiers or minions. They're just like the pawns, almost, so to speak. While there are even yellow-eyed demons who are like generals, and the red-eyed demons, which are cunning deal makers. And I've actually noticed that after further research of this, that the color of eyes goes into the 7 princes of hell as well. For example, pink eyes means lust, golden means pride, crimson means wrath, orange is gluttony, envy is blue, greed is green, and sloth is purple. And these represent the 7 deadly sins, which I thought was very fascinating.
I mean, at this point, I just feel like there's a huge-ass Walmart with several floors of demon children with different eye colors, like the ones with green eyes work in fucking gardening and plants and shit, and the ones with black eyes are in the fashion section, and so on. It just sounds like they work at Walmart or Costco and have different sectors.
Actually, I've actually had, and this is absolutely serious, I've had an experience with red-eyed kids or demons. One day, I was going to buy some marijuana, and outside of the dispensary, I saw some red-eyed kids. They're often seen eating Oreos and playing hacky sack, so they're not really much to worry about.
They sound like they get bullied.
They're like, yeah, these are the kind of people that probably get fooled by black-eyed children.
They're like, bruh, he's got motherfucking cookies. Jared, come down. Give me $20.
Let these kids in. They need to have a shit.
Okay, so serious question. The people who report these happenings, do we know that they don't live in Florida? Because if that's the case is solved. We have our explanation.
Florida's full. Instead of the Mothman in Florida, they have the Meth Man.
Yes, and the black-eyed children following him. Just
They're
be like,
hey, can I get some of that?
Can I come in and take a piss? So, okay, what do you make of all this? Where do you stand here? From 1 being not believing it at all to 10 being totally convinced. Where are you at?
Well, I mean, okay, my desire to believe they exist is much stronger than me actually believing they exist. So with that, I will say probably a 4, and that's an optimistic 4. I think it makes for great stories and speculation, which is fun and interesting, like what we're doing now. But until I experience it for myself, that's what these are. They're just stories. Even though when I was reading these encounters, I got anxiety and it stressed me out, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and every time I hear the knock on the door now, I check to see what's out there. So there's some aspect of me being paranoid about it, and it creeped me out. But I think that's the effect of any scary story should have on someone. So I think this is kind of what's going on right now. So do I necessarily believe they're true? No. But on the off chance they are, I ain't looking out. I ain't answering the door at anyone. So I think people might ask me why, I want the BK to exist, because my strong desire to believe they exist. Because even if they're evil, I guess I would say that my interest in the paranormal it might answer questions about the nature of human existence and our spiritual being, even if there are creatures out there to capture our souls. And even saying that, I come off as a spiritual person who goes to Whole Foods and to buy rosé and celery, but I assure you I'm not. But I like to believe that we have souls, and even though these illegitimate demon children are out there to get them, I just feel like it would be nice to know that there's some sort of soul, and that it means so much that these evil little fuckers are out there trying to get it, So, I mean, how about you? I mean, where do you stand on it?
I'd say I'm at a 2.5, and I certainly was generous with that one. So while the formulaic nature of these happenings makes sense in the same way that crimes too tend to have certain formulas, it makes it harder for me to believe, because whenever a formula is set up for the people who want to start a hoax or for people who are inventing things, they have an A plus B plus C equals D kind of thing where they can make up their story. If BEKs are actually smart and have this agenda, wouldn't they maybe try to appear in different forms? Wouldn't always showing up when it's dark and them always asking to be let in be a dead, no pun intended, giveaway? Especially as these stories are being shared online. Now, to be fair, maybe they want to stay on brand, like Instagram models using the same fucking filter on a billion pictures that all look the same. Maybe that's the case. However, if they do exist, I think we'd get along, we'd make jokes about death, laugh about existential despair, and spook the neighbors. Jokes aside, though, BKs, if you listen to podcasts and happen to stumble on this one, I respect you, but never want to see you. XOXO, me.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I think, was one of my issues and why I'm such a skeptic of the black-eyed children, is they don't seem to get human behavior. They don't mimic it properly. And you think if they've been around for a lot of times, they'd be able to be like, find more legitimate reasons to get into your home. Like, they can sell, like, bowls. Like, hey, I got some great bowls for you. Maybe,
or even just sound less mechanical. Just sound like a human instead of being like, hello, sir, I would like to use your washroom.
Yeah, and I think that's, like, a lot of the times, like, these accounts, they show these black-eyed children as, like, emotionless beings. But that sets us off as people, because we're like, this person, there's something wrong with you. And then I think if they actually took the time to observe human behavior and maybe research what makes people let in, being like, yo, I got some wheat, and these red-eyed children will be like, let this dude in. It's like, there's ways, I feel like more natural ways to be let into the house. So the skepticism in me is like, why are they so creepy when they're trying to fool people,
Well, yeah, and I mean, there's so many easy formulas I can think of off the top of my head of, like, even when I was a kid, when I lost my mom at the supermarket, I would freak out, right? Mm-hmm. And I'd start crying almost immediately because I was like, oh my God. So if one of these kids showed up crying, being like, I lost my mommy, that's easy. Like, you're going to get into any fucking home. Even if someone with, like, a dead heart like mine, I'd be like, okay, shit, I guess you need to come in.
Yeah.
But this whole, like, I just imagine them tilting their head, being like, hello, miss. Can I come in to use your telephone? I'd be like, bitch, get out. Like, you're out of here.
Like, what the hell's wrong with you? Yeah. It's like, la, 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 la. That's what they might as well be doing.
They might as well at this point. Or just be, like, wearing a poster for a horror movie.
Yeah.
Just, like, be wearing a poster for a horror movie. Yeah. And be like, hey, I'm totally normal, yeah.
It's a good thing we have Ring. Because when I was actually first reading about these children, I got paranoid that maybe if you, like, researched them or started talking about them, that you'd be, like, a future target.
Oh my God, I got paranoid about that too.
And I was like, what did I open myself to? I'm going to get an encounter and it's going to change my life. And then I'm going to be eating my words. And then I think the sunlight was like, you're just being crazy. But...
So anyways, guys, if you're listening on YouTube, please let us know what you think in the comments down below. In the description box, you can see our email and Instagram. If you had any type of encounter, we'd love to hear about it, and we'd love to read some out as a part of future episodes.
Yeah, I mean, if you also have any questions, we can answer those. And we'd love suggestions as well of maybe future cases we can talk about. And please also review the podcast on whichever platform you're using. This will help us gain exposure and finding the people who might be interested in listening to us talking about all these random subjects and not understanding our humor whatsoever.
So thank you guys so much for tuning in. And remember, keep the doors locked and say no to kids.